It's important to talk about the safety. Like I say, all the doctors are given something, and they don't even know whether it's vitamin B3 or even with NAD. How sure you are they are really the NAD? Or there are so many things that you have to understand what is behind the manufacturing part of it. All the stem cells in Malaysia, they probably are doing it in a small lab, and you don't know it could be in an apartment, a condo. You see the point there? Because no one show you the lab. No one really show you the lab. Sometimes they may show you the banking, the storage, but that is not for manufacturing. License for banking or storage doesn't mean license for manufacturing. It's important to understand that, okay? So again, for people like us with the lab experience, we spend all our time in the lab. We have a lot of technicians. We are the people who do the formulations. So if you ask me about the exosome, you ask me about the cells, we are the people who do the formulations. With our biochemists, with our technicians, with everyone who is working inside the lab. So it's important we are immunologists. It's like Dr. Pang, you ask her about the mechanism, I think she will explain better than a medical doctor because they are the people who do the testing and the research. So it's important now, the next thing is safety. How safe is the thing? Did anyone do any publication of their products or remedy to prove that they are really safe? Or did they prove that they are not cancer-free? So these are the next question we also have to ask because it's not just a matter of treating the patient, but we also have to ensure the safetiness of what we are going to promote. You see, for these reasons, also for our side, the reason is we start our background in 1983, fully on research, then we went into manufacturing in Switzerland and Germany. I was based in Geneva in 1983 with $800 US, one table, two chair, and suffer with one meal for 3 years with my wife. So you can understand the hardship we went through to build what we have today. It wasn't overnight. We went through a lot of hardship, So I learned a lot of things from the different masters, and I come to realize everyone has the good part about them. And then I combine everything together because I watched a movie by Bruce Lee. He was so confident, and he actually learned a lot of things from other people. And he was a street fighter, and then he saw Muhammad Ali dancing on the rope, and then he started dancing, okay? And there are a lot of things you have to understand. So in my life, I come to realize there's a lot of things we have to be very unique. So I have 3 idols in my life, and I base my concept on these 3 idols. In the 80s, I met Karl Lagerfeld. Remember Coco Chanel, and the guy, and he's the one with the spectacles and high collar, and he's an inventor of a lot of fashion, the German guy, okay? I was very fascinated with his confidence at that time. Those were the days we also had Pitangue, the plastic surgeon who's very well known in Brazil. So we meet a lot of all these top masters. But Bruce Lee gave me the inspiration, learn from everyone, and you have to create out your one from what you learn. So to write a book, even autism, we really have to read a lot of books of others. It's not just to write a book. We also have to look into what the others are writing. We read their book, and then we write it out ourselves with what we have in extra. So the good part is we have a big team here, so we learn up everything. But again, the important thing is the safetiness, I always say. So I told you about Bruce Lee, I told you about Karl Lagerfeld. Of course, there's another one I put very much in heart. It was Mother Teresa. She did so much for India. He did so many things with love and compassion. So when we treat, we also have to treat with love and compassion. So I was telling all our physicians, we have a few hundred physicians with 40 over centers. The first thing you treat a patient is you also have to imagine and treat the patient like you are treating your own mother or father or your siblings. Because your own siblings or mother or father could be treated by another physician. So as a staunch Buddhist in my early life, I believe you must generate good karma, So I always say I will only treat what I can deliver, and I'm confident to deliver. If you're not confident to deliver, then you better don't treat the patient because you may not have the results. So this is how I look at life, So we have a lot of interaction among the physicians. When we give a case, when we take up a case, we may discuss among a number of us together in a team group. If there's some rejection or there's some disagreement, we have to sort it out among ourselves. So it's a kind of an all-in-one decision, and wasn't just one decision by one physician to treat a patient. Okay, so there's a lot of discussion ongoing around because among our own team of medical doctors here, okay, we also have a lot of disagreement on certain diseases. You see, you ask everyone to go on a drip. If you ask 8 doctors, they may give you a different protocols. It's the same for treating patients. So how do you know which one is the best? And the patient sometimes may have different opinion. He may go to 3 doctors of different places, and all are given different opinions at the same time. He's also get confused. Okay, so in our case, we make it a team of 8 here. All of us will discuss. If we have disagreement with certain things, we have to discuss, and then the attending doctor will look into the case. Now, the good part is that you can pass us all these cases, and we will give you our opinion. So when we give you an opinion, it's a team opinion here. It's not a one-person opinion. Okay, that is a good part. These protocols are given to you free of charge. It's part of a service to service you for buying the products from us as a manufacturer. So when I start the manufacturing in Germany and Switzerland, and I come to realize, until today, we don't have a sales and marketing manager. I told you around 400 staff here, we don't have sales and marketing department. So how do you sell your product without sales and marketing? Everyone say the most important in sales and marketing. Our sales and marketing is by education. And that is how we won the award. The only company in the world who won an award for best marketing is because they see us very differently. We won it in one of the best awards in 2011 and 2012 in Switzerland. They say your marketing is the best. Why? Because you have been proven to show education across 80 countries. Education is the best because the doctors will accept education and they hunger and stay with you for more. That is the best. And that's where we formed the World First Stem Cell Association and Cell Therapy and introduced stem cells, being the first into Korea, into Japan, into Thailand, into Australia, into New Zealand, into the Middle East. No one was talking about cell therapy or stem cells in the 80s or 90s when we first started, even in Bangkok. No one was talking about holistic those days. Those are so early days, okay? And today you see every sentence is going around with all this. That means there's a good sign that medical doctors are moving into regenerative medicine, which is not taught in medical school. Well, in the lunchtime, I hear a lot of you telling me, there's so many I come to realize I have not learned about in medical school. I say, yes, because this is another kind of medicine which is not taught at all. Stem cell is not taught in medical school. Today, you see a lot of things about wellness, and we call it medical wellness, okay? So the good part about wellness is, you're not treating someone who is on the way to dying and he die off. When you talk about wellness, a lot of people are people with money, I would say 90% of our patients are high-end patients. And it's not like an aesthetic. You do aesthetic, you may not be happy about the work, and you have to redo, and you take a lot of hours to do aesthetic. It's like doing a liposuction for the day the doctor will be tired. Here, you can even attend to 100 patients by giving a jab for the stem cells or whatever. It's easy. You don't take a lot of time for the jab. Of course, the rest of the work will be done by the nurses. I always say DDRR, diagnose, detox, repair, and regenerate. But most of the doctors in the market is only rejecting the stem cells, injecting the stem cells without doing the detox, without doing the repair. Okay, that is also important. Although the stem cells, I would say, make up 80% of the results, or 85%, but the main thing is you still have to detox. You have to take away the toxin in the body. You have to check the gut health. You have to check the heavy metals. All this has to be taken up, but it's impossible to take it within 1 day or 2 days or 3 days program, because in our center here, we do a 4 days, 3 nights program. That means the patient come here and they do 4 days, 3 nights, and then they go off. But that doesn't mean you detox all the toxin out from the body totally, but at least you do something about it, and they will follow up with the peptides when they go home. So we do the stem cells and the cells, and then we follow up with the peptides. It's like treating a diabetic patient with high HbA1c and sugar. You bring it down, but he has a lifestyle which is still the same. He may not have changed, so you have to monitor. To monitor means you still have to go up with the peptides of LPP, SIMKE to control the sugar level and the HbA1c. So this is how we do it. Okay, it's like treating a Parkinson or Alzheimer's patient. It doesn't mean one treatment, okay, is totally okay, It depends. Sometimes some patients react very good, but some patients need time. But younger patients, results are always better and faster. Okay, through my career, if there's someone who say, I took your cells and I don't see any results, I think it's very rare in my dictionary. In fact, every patient we treat, they have some results. Even for every autistic children or every Down syndrome. Down syndrome is so easy for us. They will see the result because you give the right cells. Again, when we look at the pathological or the lab work of every patient, you already know which organ there is a damage, which organ need a repair, so you give the right organ. Obviously, you see the results. So if someone say, I took your stem cells, I took your peptides, I don't see the result. Especially for the stem cells, I'm very confident we will see the results because it's the best. Okay, so I went to US, I treat a number of patients, Alzheimer's and Parkinson, but there are also some patients who come to me, I want guarantee. How to guarantee in medicine? There's no guarantee even in life. You don't even know tomorrow, isn't it? Anything can happen to us tomorrow. You wake up, you find out that you have cancer, your perception in life changed totally. So I say in life, there's no guarantee, and that includes medicine. But you insist you want me to guarantee, I'm fine. You don't see the treatment, you don't pay. But you have to go with our regime. Within the 3 months, you have to go for comparison. I'm very confident there will be. So are you willing to pay double if you see the improvement? That is also my other counter offer. You must. I will guarantee, but you have to pay double. So if you're willing to pay double, I will do the guarantee and sign in the contract. The extra 100%, please donate to charity. It must be paid to charity. I'm not interested to make that extra. So that's what I've been doing. I've been challenged many times with all this. I did it in China. I did it in USA. Okay, there's people who insist your guarantee. But you also face a condition. I have some experience in China, that I don't see results. I want my money back. So you have to be careful. So you must also make sure you have a lab work or blood test before the stem cells or the last 3 months. You prescribe very carefully the right types of stem cells. And 3 months later, on the 4th month, you must insist on the same lab, on the lab work from the same lab. You can't use a different lab. So this way we do a comparison. I'm very sure there are improvements. Because we are giving you a series of cells. There could be 14 or 20 different types of cells. Don't tell me they don't see any improvements. Impossible. The liver is so easy to regenerate. I'm very confident the liver will regenerate. We don't have problem treating liver patients because the liver regenerates so fast. You cut off 90%, you will still regenerate within 2 years. But when you say regeneration of the brain and the kidney or regeneration of the heart, oh, that is a difficult part. Okay? So you make sure you give the right cells. Because especially for CKD, it's not easy. You know? So if CKD, you don't give a strong dose of kidney cells, you can't. Sometimes you even have to inject the patient a strong dose. And the next day, within 24 hours, we observe, we give another dose. And with CKD on dialysis, we are done on dialysis and we reduce it. I've done a lot of 3 times dialysis to 2 times even in Malaysia and of course overseas. Now, for dialysis, those already on dialysis, it doesn't mean they can't do a certain way of regeneration. Through our experience, we also have Dr. Michael is end-stage kidney failure. He has a stent in the heart with a heart failure in the plane. They rushed down in Stanford Hospital trying to save his heart. His 2 kidneys totally off. So he was dialysis on 10 months. On a wheelchair, I met him. He can't even talk. I can't even hear what he's talking. At 68, he looks like 88. So I wasn't confident to treat at that time with the stem cells, you know, but because the wife, who is Dr. Jurina Smida, challenges me, he said, you say on stage you can treat all regenerative organs. There could be some regeneration. Okay, I say, I will take it up, but don't try the stem cell first. Try the peptides. Why? Because I don't want you to spend all the money and then you don't see the results. So I gave 4 months of peptides and 4 months of peptides of the heart and the kidney. Before the 4 months is off, I received a call from their doctors in Stanford. They say, the heart is regenerating and you're off dialysis from the nephrologist. So everyone is stunned and surprised. MIT sent the scientists together with the chief scientist of Life Extension, USA, Dr. Ern. They went to Germany and observed us to do the real implantation in a hospital on the stem cells of the kidney. And after that, he remains off dialysis until today. This is already moving to the 8th year. He's still on there without. Of course, he continued. He have done 4 stem cells treatment, not 1. During the COVID, he can't do anything. We have to maintain with the peptides. After the dialysis, after the stem cells, we still have to continue with the peptides. 3 times it's done in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, for your information. Okay, so there are solutions for everything. Imagine 10 months on dialysis, you move it to off dialysis. We just do one for a director, father of 78 with CKD for 3 over years. 3 times, we move it to two times. Hopefully, we can move it to 1 time. Again, even on dialysis, we extend the waiting time, which is also important because dialysis also have a timeline. Okay, so there's a lot of things you have to understand here. So I always think that there are so many solutions if you do the right thing. And that is what we love in this field of regenerative medicine. And we coin the word bioregenerative because we are involved in biologicals. So when we deal with the FDA of every country, I say you can't classify it as drugs. You say, why? Because these don't have shelf life. These are biologicals. How are you going to call them drugs? Drugs means standardization. Is there any standardization? Every batch is different. Every batch, you take the placenta, is a different color. None of the women has the same color of placenta. It looks the same, but it are not the same color. So in other words, I say the word individualized. That is to protect all the physicians here. We always say individualized therapy. In the building, I call it individualized. So it's only for that particular patient where the treating physician prescribes the concoction of cells and protocol only for that physician. That is to protect all of us. Because when our physician run into trouble, we will run into trouble too. So we must protect all of you. I will not run away from the trouble. I remember a case in Hong Kong. We are the first person to do stem cells in Hong Kong. Professor Dr. Chan has treated more than 200 patients, including autistic children from Taiwan. He's the first guy because he started early. We started in 2002. So in 2006, he ran into trouble because he went on stage and said he treated the FDA in Hong Kong. MOH raided his office and they took 300 files, you know, and they suspended his license because they openly declared. Okay, so sometimes it's not good to openly declare. Okay, so what happened is the FDA, the FDA looked, they call it the MOH in Hong Kong. There are 50 doctors who do the treatment, but none of the doctors support him. Everyone try to not be involved, keep quiet. Actually, there are 50 who buy from us, even in Hong Kong today. So there's only one person who helped him. I took all the files. I went to see the Director General of the Hong Kong MOH. I said, these are the files, okay? These are not found in Commonwealth countries. Look at this book. Some are from in Germans, and these are all the proof to prove this is safe. So of course, today we did a lot of other publications to save on all this. So there's one book on 180 years old of history of xenotransplantation. And what happened to Dr. David Chen? He was suspended for 1.5 years, and after that, they removed his license. They had to give it back his license. You know why? Because the MOH interviewed all the 300 over patients as much as they can. None of the patients say they don't see the results. And the complaint was done by someone from Hong Kong University who was doing mesenchymal cells for MS, multiple sclerosis, for a girl of 29 who can't type with one finger. She was a good pianist, and she had, and that was given free. Whereas David was charging at that time 25,000 for this girl for the treatment she did one time, but the father insists on the second time because they see the results, they're willing to pay. They have done 2 times the cells, mesenchymal cells, without the result. And the geneticist professor complained about him and put him into hot soap. You don't know. So it's better sometimes it's good to reclassify it, call it biomolecular therapy, or call it youth restoration. It's up to you to call any name, okay? I can call it youth restoration anti-aging. So what? Biomoleculars. It's up to you. But the moment you mention cell, it's more sensitive. So you didn't realize why exosome came in the picture in a big way. In 2018, although we introduced in 2018 came a time where FDA, everyone is claiming on the stem cells in US, because I'm very familiar in US. I go to US every month, okay? So what happened is that, so physicians, the Academy of American Stem Cell Physicians, start to promote exosome. They say cell-free. Just like you heard from Dr. Simon, cell-free. That means the peptides and the exosomes are cell-free. But US FDA also clamped down on the peptides. No, I mean on the exosomes. And recently on the artificial peptides, okay? The synthetic peptides, like BPC 157 was also stopped. So you don't know, okay? And every regulation is different. In Switzerland, you can't take your blood and put back to you as autologous stem cells. It's not allowed. Human stem cells is not allowed in Germany and Switzerland, legally. But they can use the animal peptide therapy. So it depends how you look at things, everything is different. So coming back to all this, it is important to prove, okay? And no one really do the proving. Okay, no, a lot of people may show the results. So we have to prove, and that's how we go on to prove. We have to prove. Now, the reason why sometimes you have to use xenogenic is because, like I say, you can't take the islet cell from another person. You can't take the brave substantial nigra or frontal lobe for autistic children or substantial for Parkinson, right? So we don't have a choice. And there are thousands of drugs approved by FDA from animal source. Insulin comes from pig. Heparin, the most usable drug before, during, and after surgery, is coming from pigs too. Even with the Muslim, I do a lot with UAE government. They send a lot of children for autism and Alzheimer, autistic children and cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. They know, but it's for saving life. In Muslim, even for saving life is okay. So when I work with the Muslim community, a Muslim of Jakim in Malaysia, in 2005, I had to hire a medical director who is a staunch Muslim of Malaysia by Abdul Halim, and he was first batch of MU's professors. We go with the Jakim. So I have to face 12 muflis to get the legalization. So finally, there came a word of the haluskan. Okay, that means the haluskan is allowed and not haram, tidak diharamkan. So that was the Malaysian version. So that is good. We still have a letter from Jakim. So what about Germany? In Germany, we have a documentation that our ship in Germany, they have the Muslim community certification, and that Muslim community council is approved by Jakim. If it can be approved by Jakim, which is very scrutinized in Malaysia, the Indonesian FDA and the Saudi and the UAE FDA approve it. So that was a good part. So we prepare our lessons very early. I always believe in preparing early. We always have 2 or 3 scenarios, okay? So I did it wonderfully well in this sense because we prepared. But of late, we went into the safety. But before we went into safety, we also proved in different countries of the world, there are a lot of ongoing on xenografts. Japan, the top country in stem cell research, okay, for mesenchymal cells. After Shinya Yamanaka won iPSC in 2012. But Shinya Yamanaka is only in the lab. iPSC is still not in practical or commercialization yet. But in Thailand, someone would say, we are giving you iPSC cells. It's impossible. There is no iPSC cells yet. It's only in the lab. But people like to use some words and sell it well, and they sell it well. So coming back to publications in all this, these are all journals of publication of xenotransplantation. When I say xenotransplantation, it can mean organ transplantation or cells of the organs transplantation. It's important to understand we are talking about cells transplantation of the organ. In cell transplantation, there is no rejection. In organ transplantation, there will always be rejection, even if a father would give it to his own son. Even if a twin were to give it to another twin. There is always rejection with organs, but there are no rejection with cells of the organ. So the future of medicine, when I was brought to Ang Hui Hospital, we are talking about a hospital with 40,000 doctors and nurses. It's like a Toyota city of hospital. When we go there, it's all transplantation. It's one of the biggest transplantation of the hospital. They have in Arabic section, they have in other language section, And I was telling the doctor, because it was brought by the owner of Ansan, that means the son of Ansan Hospital, Hyundai the car. I told them the future is not in organ transplantation because you don't have enough organs. So what is inside the organs? The cells and the stem cells. So you only need to transplant the cells and the stem cells. That's it. You don't need to transplant the organ. Because the organ is a final stage. So why don't you repair the organ when it's going to be totally out? Before it gets gone off. I mean, you as a treating physicians, you already know the organ is going out. So you give the cells to do the regeneration. And I use the word dying cells as living cells. Dying doesn't mean you're totally dead. As long as they're living, they can be regenerated. Okay? These are talking about dying organs. But when you talk about autoimmune, then we have to move another side. Okay? When we talk about multiple sclerosis, MS, ALS, this is another level. Stem cells are not totally meant for autoimmune. I think that topic will be speak on the third day or second day tomorrow, where we talk about AASI therapy. Okay? It's another patented therapy, and we have 2 books on this. Now, for autoimmune, you need the stem cells because it destroys the organ. So you target each organ and give the stem cells of the organ, but at the same time, you never solve the root of the problem. The autoimmune is still there. So while you're repairing the organ, after a while, he will face back the organ damage. So while you repair the damaged organ and revitalize or regenerate the organ with the right organ cells, but you must still put the autoimmune into control. But in medical world, there's no cure for autoimmune, just like psoriasis, you know. So how Dr. Glenn came to me? Dr. Glenn is a friend for 20 years. I know him as a friend, okay? Because he treated my elder son who has the worst psoriasis. He was young as a Chinese boy with fair skin. He became Indian color. Imagine a son who is fair like a baby, like me, fairer than me, you know, and he became like an Indian boy. One coin on the head, he was totally asthmatic, but at 14, he started with one patch of 50-cent coin on the head. And I was traveling with my wife, and each time I come back, he started to aggravate. And at the end of the day, he don't even have eyebrow or hair on the body. He was scratching every day, and the whole day I had to change bed sheet every day. I changed more than 10 mates. I can give them 5 times or 10 times a salary. They don't last a month. Okay? And the school, he covered everything with a sunglass, and he would go to school without seeing a single skin. Imagine his self-esteem. Every school will kick him out. So he's kicked out of a few private schools here. Okay? Everyone is looking at him, they make a complaint. Okay? So I come to realize, I sent to Dr. Glenn at that time. He said, Dr. Glenn said he don't have other solution too. He can put it under control with steroid. That's all. And after that, he will flare up against steroid. So after some time, I come to realize there's no solution. I start to get dermatologists from other parts of the world. I spend a lot of money, including flying down from Europe or from US. And still, I didn't solve my son's problem. Then I dig back the file. We came out with something we learned, but at the same time, we improved and we come up with the AASI therapy. And we have done 8 publications today, and we wrote 2 books on this. So my son went back to normalcy. Of course, there's scar over the body, because in the old days, he had to put on aqueous cream every 30 minutes. If he fly, the stewardess will be knocking at the door, come out, you know, because he go to the toilet a few times every 30 minutes, okay? So these are the agony of a parents who have a son with autoimmune or psoriasis. When Dr. Glenn met me later on, he found out my story. He was surprised that my son is treated well with all this, finally, okay? And in the later part, he joined me finally, not as a friend, he became part of the team. He's a medical director of the team here, okay? So this is some story to tell. Of course, there are many on autoimmune. So I have dig out all the files of all the publication of different parts of the world on xenograft. That is one good part, okay? I proved to the world there are a lot of publications around the world. In PubMed, after 1954, xenografts are not shown at all. They're removed from PubMed. There's a lot of things with the Soviets, that means the Russians and the Ukrainians, who are some of the top pioneers in stem cell research with human in the old days, and the Germans and the Swiss, who has been with the animals for a long time. I'm talking about history of 180 years. 1838 is a long time. Okay, it's been ongoing. But to the Orientals, they do believe a certain part of cell therapy, because the Chinese has always believed that, you know, you want certain things, you give the organ. Okay, so that's how I went into this street, because of my own experience, and my father-in-law, who also died of end-stage kidney failure. We are the first people to do a first publication of kidney reversal. That is important. Now, let's talk about main therapy and support therapy. Main therapy means it has to be the cells. Nothing works better than the cells. So you give the stem cells and the frozen live cells. These only contain 3 to 5% of the cells. And again, when someone say, oh, I froze your stem cells, I froze your cell, let me be very honest. When you froze something, that means you change from liquid to solid, they are already damaged to the cellular wall. But the worst part is when you take it out and thaw it. So at the end of the day, we were losing even 50% of the cells. It drops totally. So you will be injecting dead cells and live cells. Of course, the live cell will do the part, the dead cells will do nothing. That's all I want to say, okay? So that is the reason why this has been ongoing in Germany for many years. We are one of the pioneers who introduced to Asia, including to Thailand and of course to Malaysia and all over the world. We are the world's biggest supplier of frozen cells, which is very popular. People like to see the dry ice with it. It has to be transported with dry ice. But then in the later part, we also have the precursor cells, which are wonderful. 2 months ago, we perfected another system. Now we can inject with more quantity of cells, quality of cells are better, and lesser media. So that means to say when I go to US or when I go to other parts of the world, the quality of the cell lasts longer. We make them last 72 hours because the brain cells after 12 hours become unstable. So you lose a lot of brain cells, okay? So that is something we have perfected wonderfully well. Of course, we will patent all this. I believe we own 50 patents of the world, okay, in all kinds of preparation and all kinds of things. And we love what I'm doing. I do the mesenchymal cells, I do the human cells, I do the animal cells, I do all kinds of cells. Because we have to try everything. How to know which one works? Our main thing is it must work. But before it works, the first thing is premium non nocere. It must not do any harm. So we can't do any harm. So we make sure we are not coming back and attacked by any others saying that we do something which is not safe. So how do you know animals are safe then? So through our experience, learning from all the masters, they've been using the sheep right in front and slaughter and take the cells and extract into the patient, inject into the patient. But those are the days. Today we talk about zoonosis. So there's one part we have to be very careful now. We are the only one in the world with SPF rabbits and sheep. That means to say they have to come from Charles River, USA, Arizona. Charles River is the world's largest supplier of sheep and rabbits. They're the world's largest supplier. Of course, they have in Europe, in France, okay? And now Japan has SPF source too. These are some of the major sources, I don't mind telling you. The rabbit cost in Europe can be $2 euro. An SPF rabbit is 1,200 euro or 1,200 US. And you have to ship in a plane chartered with 20 rabbits. When they come, you know, maybe 2 will die because rabbits are very sensitive animals. And imagine you chartered a plane and with only 20 rabbits, they are flying super first class. Not business class, super first class. 20 rabbits will cost us 250,000 US. Because you have to book the whole plane. You have to go through all the procedures with the FDA and the veterinary department. Okay, so these are the level we went through. Because I do not cut on cost. I only want to deliver. And I want total safetiness. Okay, so again with the human, again you also have to be careful. You're taking from the exosomes or from the human. Did you see the donor? Have you ever seen the donor? Did you see any document that the cells are safe? The doctor don't even know who was giving the cells. It could be someone in a clinic or whatever. You don't know at all. So this is another risk you have to understand as a physician. So it's important to go to people who have some credible in them. You know, there are some good credentials. Otherwise, it's high risk. I know a lot of us take risks, but we have to take calculated risks too, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, if you know the materials are safe, okay, it is safe. Now, the good part about us, we go with Europeans. We don't manufacture here. We don't. We go with Europeans. Because when you talk about Swiss and German, you can't even do a false claim, you go to jail. You don't pay a parking ticket, you go to jail. Even for a parking ticket, everything is police, it's a police state. Okay, some of us may not like it at all. But in terms of quality, if you want to talk about the best supplements, I would say Swiss supplements are good. You talk about skincare, Swiss sell the most. You want to talk about injectables, Germany is a country which have all the technology. And that's why we build a plant. Our plant is in Germany. So human, you need the source. You must have some certification, not cell mix certification. But again, it's very difficult to trace everything, I have to honestly tell you. Again, if someone were to tell me that, which one is better, from your own body or from another person? If I'm 64, even if I have a biological of 46, it's still a 46 years old cells, organ cells. It will never compare to my grandson, who may be 1 or 2 years old, and of course his cell is better, right? But still my grandson's cells cannot compare to the fetal cell, which is 0 age, because it's not out yet. So it's important, when you look at Dr. Pang's presentation, he did show you the difference. But there's another thing you have to understand, even with your own human cells, and especially when you're getting from another person, allogenic, there are rejections. They are. There are some rejection. There is also a transfer for autoimmune genes from the donor to the host. So that guy, if you have autoimmune problem, he will transfer the genes to you too. So you also have to be careful with all this. We have to do all this. We have to do a lot of verification and checkup. It's not easy as you claim. How many people will go to all this? Not many, I would say. Okay. So again, with the plant is very safe. When you say plant, it's really very safe because there's nothing there. But if you say the plant can do wonderfully well in the case of brain, heart, liver, kidney, my answer is no. They will assist, they will help, but not totally. They can't replace because they don't have the exact molecules of the organ. Okay? Yes, something for the liver which is bitter will be good for the liver. Okay, but again, there's something for the heart, for the kidney, but they will never have the exact. But there's a lot of studies with the phyto and the myco. Myco is the mushroom, which we are doing a lot here too. That's why we have an NOP vegetal. We will be taught on day 3, okay, the vegetal range. So safetiness means we have the first thing I say for safetiness is for the human. This is how we go through in Europe. Our human stem cell is not in Malaysia, it's all in Europe. I think we are the only one doing human stem cells from Europe. No one bring down from Europe. They're all made in Malaysia from the other place. I don't do that, okay? I believe very much European status, you know. So again, in terms of animal, obviously, they come from New Zealand since 1973, sent to USA and breed in USA. They're all specific pathogen-free, SPF, very important, and they're VAF. What is VAF? Virus antigen-free. This is a future of medicine. You cannot avoid the fact that there will be zero animal source because a lot of drugs comes from animal anyway. There are thousands of drugs from animal, as you know. Even for cerebral lysine, it's mixed from pig's brain. It's approved in Europe for 70 years, found in pharmacy in Europe, but it's never approved in Malaysia, Singapore, or USA because we follow US FDA. If you follow everything US FDA, I would say US FDA did a lot of limitation in the field of integrative medicine, a lot of equipments you can't use, a lot of drugs you can't use. So this is a problem. So that means there's a lot of limitation. We'll be behind time. So when I was first brought to give a seminar on talk with American Academy of Stem Cell, I say US is 25 years behind time in stem cell research. They're talking about young plasma in 218. What's the point of a young plasma taking a blood and putting back? Just like Brian Johnson saying, I took it and I want to be as young as a 5-year-old. It's impossible. I do not agree everything of what Brian Johnson say. Okay, there are certain things, yes, but not everything. And I will not limit myself to, you can't do this, you can't do that. That does mean there's no meaning in life. There's no wonderfulness in life, you know, if you have to do it so adhering. So in terms of rabbits, why we use rabbit is because rabbit is retrovirus-free, like I say. Rabbit don't spread the disease to another animal. That is important, okay? So there are many types of diseases we have to understand. We have to know. These are some of the comparison. Dr. Pang is giving you some comparison and you put it up there, which is important. Because your job is to deliver, but your job is also to make sure you don't harm the patient. So if we can prove that we don't harm the patient, that is good enough. So we have it in Heidelberg University. We send all the stem cells, all the MOs, all the NOPs, and we send it to Heidelberg University. We also send it to the University of California. We come out with all the publications to prove, because they have to come from reputable source. So when you want to talk about reputable source, then you have to talk about developed countries. USA, London, you know, Germany, Switzerland, Japan. These are reputable countries, okay? So that's what we do here, okay? So it's impossible. I'm willing to share all my PowerPoints on here. You can have all this, you know. It's important because it's so technical. Now, we do not have time to go one by one, although we may have many days, but continuing the technical support to you is forever. Any one of you can text to me. I will give you all the technical support as much as I can. In terms of medical support, my team or clinical team, through our discussion, we will also come back to you. It's free of charge. We don't charge for the time. I reply to 300 inquiries from 300 doctors a day. A day. We are talking about a day. 12 to 6 a.m. is my US time. I keep on having calls between 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's why I have to sleep at 6 a.m. and I wake up at 9 a.m. I sleep 3 hours. My only problem is I don't have enough sleep. 9 a.m. I have to wake up because work starts at 9. But the other good part is I leave office around 10 p.m. 11 to 12 is 1 hour in the hyperbaric cabin, which I've been doing it for almost 40 years. Since the 80s. I used to sleep in the capsule, but then I started to sleep in the cabin. I do that until today. I'm probably the first guy who brought hyperbaric cabin to Asia. Those were the old days. We're talking about the 80s. You will see some in the clinic later on here, for those who have not seen. So everything is done wonderfully well. And this is important. We are the only one in the world with SPM and VF. These animals are safer than human. No one can guarantee on human source because you can't lock a man or woman for life. You can't prevent them from going out. With animal, yes, you can do that. These are laboratories animals used by Harvard, Cambridge, or all the top universities of the world in their lab. They don't expose animals to the outside. They're kept inside the lab. And these are the lab animals we are using, which is important. And of course, we prove a lot of things. We have all the equipments in the lab here to prove everything. Now, someone give you a cells and say these are stem cells of the heart. How do you know it's a heart? Did you measure it? Did you validate it? No, there's no validation. So in our lab here, even when you go downstairs on the ground floor, when you come in the reception beside is the lab, we will show you right in front of your eyes. We put the cells and put into the flow cytometer and prove to you these are the cells. You see with your own eyes with the printout, these are the number of cells. These are the type of cells you have. It's important. We are talking about 400 different types of cells. We can prove each one of them easily because all of them come with different biomarkers. Okay, so these are important. So the good part about us here is everything is documented, very important. And we have all the years of experience in here to do this. It wasn't just overnight we have all this, So this is what I submitted for Cambridge in 2023. Because the whole world is talking about totipotent, pluripotent, multipotent, and then they talk about all these cells. They always say stem cell can differentiate. Then they will say multipotent cells can do all this. You see how people manipulate with the statements. When you read a statement, unless you have very good grasp of the English or the grammar, you will go along with it. First, I say stem cell can differentiate. Okay, I talk about pluripotent stem cells. Next, I talk about multipotent stem cells, where I prepare the knee and all that. But initially, I say they can help Parkinson's solution, all that. But now we move back to the knee. So you're caught in between. You didn't realize now we changed to another type of cells. So no one will say that. Then you thought all the stem cells given can differentiate. No, they can't. Mesenchymal cells, tissue cells will generate into the tissue. They don't generate into parenchymal organ cells. Parenchymal organ cells are heart, brain, liver, kidney, testes. These are parenchymal organs. This is important. So we introduced to the world this. This was submitted for Cambridge and it was out from Cambridge. This was a 2023 submission with my name. And this is what we introduced, and I call it the unipotent. These are undifferentiated cells in the final stage of differentiation. A river of no return. Only in tsunami you have a river which return backwards. Okay? Otherwise, all the water flow is one flow. In cells, it goes in one flow. Okay? Now I know with iPSC, you're turning the flow backwards. You change from the bone marrow, you take the mesenchymal cells, which is still considered precursor cells, back into pluripotent, into embryo stage, and then you try to change it back to another precursor stage. It's not successful yet. For your information, it's not successful yet. Although Nobel Prize winner has been won, but not in reality. In the lab, yes. So this is important to understand the fact. So my point is, why do I have to turn and hope and turn? Why don't I give the right one? Hepatocyte for liver, cardiomyocyte for the heart. It's good enough. So when I have a visit by the top cardiologist in India, his name is Dr. Suprato, he's the chairman of Cardiologists Association. He came to me and said, Mike, I have open heart surgery every day. I'm the chairman of Cardiologists of India. It's a big country, I have experience putting the mesenchymal cell right into the heart. Some I see regeneration, but most of the time I don't see regeneration. I say simple, continue what you do. Add the cardiomyocyte peptides, or add the cardiomyocyte stem cells if you can, if they can afford. If cannot, add the peptides. And it works wonderfully well. So they are solution. So we are not stopping any of the physicians from using human mesenchymal cells. Continue to do what you are doing. Do the stimulation. But now we want the regeneration. Exactly like what Dr. Dimitri was mentioning about the mitochondrial peptides. The powerhouse of the cells. You are as old as your cells. What's the point of having old cells in the body? Which will determine the age of your organ. The old cells don't have power. Okay? So you already know the younger is the cells, the better is the power. Just compare you going out with the children on a walking for 5 hours in the shopping center. You come back, you will sleep, and you rest, you don't want to move. Your children sleep for 15 minutes, they run again. You see the regenerative power? You look at the old cells in the microscope, no movement. Okay? Zero movement. They don't move, you thought they are dead. Okay? You look at the young cells of a young person, it moves. It divides every second. That's the difference. Okay? So that's what we are trying to say here. So it's important. So again, all kinds of stem cells. This is very general for all the laymen to understand too, because we have to make it very simple. Because the physician themselves is getting confused. They themselves getting confused which stem cell to use. Okay? So our job is to clear the air, and education is the way. Now, I also want to remind everyone, there's a website called ew-academy.eu. There's a lot of lessons there. Dr. Bawani, you must mention that, because we have done a lot of lessons there for the layman and the doctor. ew-academy.eu. Make sure they have it, okay? Because everyone thought European-wellness.com. I have a lot of information, but what about our academy? Okay, our academy, I believe I spent maybe $7 million in Malaysia just for academy. There wasn't any income from the academy, or almost zero income, or less than 1% income. But the main purpose is to provide education, because education is the way to convince people. You must have education, okay? So, again, look at the drugs. These are all the drugs from animal. There's so many drugs from animal. And you're talking about you can't use xenografts? So I'm challenging everyone who is saying, oh, you can't use xenograft. So including in Malaysia, I'm appointed by the Malaysian government, by the DG, to set the guideline on stem cells. To set the guideline on stem cells in Malaysia. Of course, we work with the Chinese government. Of course, I work with UAE government. Through my own experience, I believe we are the only Malaysians who have traveled around the world and spent almost 40 years in Malaysia with the experience. What the professor learned in the university is only in academic. We are talking about clinical experience, which is also important. And you, a physician, you are doing clinical work all the time. All you need is some good support from the rest of the other colleagues, plus the documentation to validate. That is important. So when you ask me any diseases, you can ask me all kinds of diseases. I probably have treated them because through the 40 years of experience with our own hospitals and centers. But what about the doctors we have done? I believe we have given lectures to 80,000 doctors. 80,000, 80. It's a lot. Because we have so many lectures a year. We have at least 50 conferences a year. When I say conference, it's international conference all over the world. We are in Monaco every year. We're in Thailand every year. And we are in so many conferences of the world every year. So in other words, the exposure is huge. We see everything, but we also learn everything from everyone, okay? From the supplies and everything. So this is very important. We are talking about this on carcinogeny and on risk of oncogenic. So this is very important. And this has been published by the University of California, USA. I intentionally choose US. I intentionally choose US. I don't mind telling you. I sent all this to Jonathan Lackey, Professor Emeritus in University. I say, John, do this. You check everything. If any risk of carcinogenic, please inform us. We send everything. This was after we did one in the University of Heidelberg. This is with the University of Heidelberg. We also check everything. Because we don't want to do something which harms someone. And 30 years later, they come to you and say, because of you, I have cancer. Anything can happen. So we better make sure it don't happen right from the beginning. Okay? Then you can't claim anything on us. So again, with animals, we have done 8 publications of animals on autoimmune and on safety in University of California, USA. So that is the level we went to. So it wasn't just on human. We do it on the animal too. It's very expensive to do on animal. Okay? So these are some of the things, how they are bred, how they are sourced, everything is important. And we are not talking about antibiotics. SPF animals are not given antibiotic. The meal that are given are different meals, hormones-free meals. Okay? It's very difficult to breed animals like this because everything is without antibiotics or hormones-free. So these are the level we prepare all the time. These are all the status. WHO say you have 50 guidelines. We have 75 guidelines to follow parameters. We went beyond WHO. WHO say you keep the sample for 5 years, you keep it for 20 years. Because we don't know the future. Okay, it's important in that sense. So I believe we have done our part in a lot of ways because we have to be ready when we are being attacked. You must be protected when you're attacked. You can be attacked all the time in this field, you know. So that's the good part, you know, and the good thing is we have all the certification, even from FDA to certify they are safe with the animals. And it comes from US FDA approval. It comes from the source itself. So that is important why I choose the animals from US FDA, approved source. So these are the level we went through. I believe it's a wonderful thing. And this is how we house the rabbit, and this is how we house the sheep, you know, in USA. Although it comes from New Zealand since 1973. So when we talk about the sheep, there are more than 50 over generations of sheep since 1973. When you want to talk about the rabbit, we are talking about 500 generations. 500 generations or 50 generations of sheep without cancer. That is important. Can you guarantee that in human? You can't. Because in human, one member have a cancer, you have a risk of cancer. That's why when we look at the blood test, the first thing we ask is tumor marker. Everything we will check your tumor marker first. Because once you have tumor marker, we're extra careful, you know. We're not ready to do anything yet until we clear certain clearance, okay? Although it can be giving a false alarm. So these are the level we went in. So these animals are guaranteed they don't have cancer, the source. So it's important. Can you guarantee the source in human? You can't. You can't. If that donor comes from a family of cancer, I will not take the donor source because there's a high risk, okay? Just like autoimmune, you pass to the recipients. This is another level you have to understand. Okay, so these are some of the things that are a bit technical. These are what dealing with our own plant, you know, our own lab, you know. So there's so many questions. I'm going to send this to you. It's easier, okay, because of the time. And I think Dr. Pang has also explained a lot of things. Imagine the level we are in. We have made multi-millions over the years, but COVID attacked us very badly. Of course, we lose money during COVID because we had to maintain the salary of everyone, and we need time to recover from there. But so far, we are doing good, okay? We make multi-millions in the old days. We spend all the multi-million only in research and in the expansions of the lab or all the centers. I only have a basic salary all my life and never declare a single dividend despite the multi-million make for the company. Because I always say, you don't even have time to spend. You work so hard, 16 to 18 hours a day. You know, so all the time you're spending. I don't even entertain. I don't even socialize. Most of the time, I don't even socialize. I don't even have meal with someone else most of the time, you know, unless it's a very special events. Okay, even VIPs, they want to have a dinner with me. I say, sorry, no time. All the patients will come are VIP. We don't have time for them. Sometimes I have to choose one meal, lunch or dinner. That's all, the only meal, okay? So I hope you like what you hear, but of course there are many other things we have to go into details on day 3 and day 4, okay? And there's a lot of information. Follow the Facebook, follow the Instagram, continue to receive all the new informations. A lot of things are changing. USA is changing in Florida, There's some relaxation in stem cells in Florida now. It's good news for American doctors. Again, in Texas, laws are more relaxed in Texas all along. So it's different in all the 50 states. Xi Jinping, the president of China, has already relaxed out on stem cells. They allow stem cells, they control the prices of the stem cells, but they allow stem cells in China for research totally for 300 old hospitals. I told you I'm appointed by the Chinese government to set guidelines to treat autistic children in China. So when I go to China, I will just open a 1,000-bed hospital for autism. I asked them, why didn't you put European Wellness Office? Because they gave me an office. They put a name Mike Chan. I say, you don't have to, you put European Wellness because I work for European Wellness. Okay, but the Chinese have special reason to putting me in is because I'm a Chinese together with my wife who spent 30 over years in Switzerland and Germany. So the Chinese, I believe, trust only back the Chinese. So you say your grandfather is Chinese, you are Chinese. I say I'm Malaysian Chinese, I'm not China Chinese, but it doesn't matter, your grandfather come from China, you are Chinese, okay? So I'm fine with that because they treated me very well, okay? So I have a good support from the German government. I work with the chief advisor for the UAE ruler. He came here to open up this clinic on August the 22nd, and he had the treatment here. He supported me very well because in UAE, there's a lot of children with neurodevelopmental, like autism and Down syndrome. And there's many other good news to tell, okay? Work with the right type of people, work with a good support. We are all for you. We will support you right until the end if you stay with us. Of course, we need you to use our product to support us. Because if you don't use our product, it's difficult for us because we cannot guarantee the safetiness of others. That is important, okay? Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.